Listening to Homerun on CBC Radio 1. I'm your host, Sue Smith. And it is a film based on a play about a film. Montreal playwright Vittorio Rossi had a hit last year at the Centaur with his play, The Envelope. It's a play about a Canadian director trying to make a film. In the play, the director struggles to fund the project. Well, now Rossi is trying to make a film about the play, and he's launching a Kickstarter campaign today to fund it. And he joins me in studio. Hello, Vittorio.
Hello, Sue. Nice to be here.
Coming in. Okay, so let's just look at what The Envelope is about. Tell me about that play.
Well, it's essentially my experiences over the last 20, 25 years or so as a screenwriter and actor, and what I've experienced going through the system of funding.
And it's not a happy, lovely place.
No, it's not. No. No, I mean, on the other side with theater, I've experienced far more. You don't see the kind of the bureaucratic interference you do for either individually as a playwright, or nor do the theaters get that kind of interference. I don't think they do when they're funded on the theater side of film.
What kind of interference are we talking about?
Oh, whatever, rewrites. Who's your distributor? We need a name actor in this. I mean, that's one of the. That's one of the most ironic things is when they start talking about, because once you start talking about a distributor, it becomes a business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the distributor wants a name. Well, we don't promote our actors in English, so there doesn't exist. It doesn't make any sense. So you're forced to hire Americans. Mm-hmm. At the budgets we have, you're not getting Tom Cruise. You're certainly not getting Brad Pitt. So what are you getting? You're probably getting some actor that maybe had a name somewhere in the 80s or 90s, and he's somewhat recognizable, but he won't bring in the box office. That's just the bottom line. Well, I've been in those films. It
sounds so cliche. I mean, I thought that the Canadians were starting to wake up and appreciate our homegrown talent more. Does that sound hopelessly naive?
The French do. There was an article 2 weeks ago, I think, September 4th, I believe it came out, in the Globe and Mail. It was, it's our national paper, and the headline read in this article, "What is wrong with the Canadian film business?" And it talked about how the big film last year, in terms of critical acclaim, was Mummy by Xavier Dolan. We got all those accolades, deservedly so, from Cannes and all that, right? And yet, domestically, it only grossed about $300,000. A hit play at Centaur grosses that in one theater.
That's amazing.
Right. So what's that telling us? Okay, I would also, I don't know the stats, but I would say that 95% of that $300,000 probably came from Quebec. Okay, so it makes sense. It's a French language film. I get that. But when you go further down the list, as is stated in this Globe and Mail article, a lot of those other films were English, and the grosses there were horrendous. $10,000, $15,000. I mean, read the article yourself. It's on my Kickstarter campaign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the page.
I read it. I read it before
these are dismal numbers. So at some point you have to. Okay, so are the films good? If they are, then why aren't English language Canadian people in English Canada? Why aren't they going to see these films? If they're not good, then address why aren't they good. Mm-hmm. And this has been going on since I became an actor back in the 80s.
I know. I mean, this is a discussion we've had many times. And then and the other thing is who is funding them, because a lot of the funding, it can be government money, it can be, film council money, and like you say, it comes with strings attached.
Look, so I've said this privately to many of my colleagues, okay, that if you take the three major artists that are responsible for putting on a film: your directors, your writers, and your actors. I have always said this, and I've been saying it from day one, that if you had to assign a number in terms of where is the most talent in those three groups, I'd have to say hands down the actors. Hands down. So now, this is my opinion. So then you think, okay, so if we have the acting talent, then why aren't these films working? Well, is it a writing problem? Is it a directing problem? That's what this play explores.
Right. Okay, so now you've gone a different route. Now you want to make a movie about the play about making a movie.
Correct.
So, and you are not going the traditional route. You've started a Kickstarter campaign.
Correct.
Why did you decide to do that?
Because I've been through the system twice, and there's just no way they're going to fund me. Vittorio was a playwright. I mean, pick a reason, Sue. I don't know. I have green eyes. I don't know. Whatever suits them to not give me money. The last time I attempted for some funds was as a screenwriter in their so-called auteur program. So that the idea behind that is
Who's they?
This is the provincial funding.
Right, because there are a number of different levels, right?
This is the provincial one, okay? So I'd written a very, very detailed movie outline for a new script. And this auteur program is one where they say this is about an artist, a writer, director coming with a complete vision and is in charge of the entire, execution of the project. So I do so. I then get an email saying, "Oh, your application's fine. It's great. There's just one thing. When was the last time you had a film seen viewed by the public?" I said, "Well, it was 8 years ago in this small little festival in Toronto. I think it's still around. It's called the Toronto Italian Film Festival, and I had my short film there." It was a short film. It was like based on my very first play. So it was like 8 years ago. They said, "Oh, our rules are very clear. 7 years is the limit." Now
Sorry,
think about this.
To laugh.
No, it's ridiculous. So I'm refused screenwriting funds to develop the screenplay based on the fact that my short film missed their deadline by a year. So now let's examine this for a second. So you're putting priority on the fact that the film is seen by the public. Why? Nobody sees this stuff. Why are you prioritizing it? So let's just say my answer was this. When was the last time, let's say, so Vittorio, you didn't respond to the question of when was the last time your last film was viewed. Now let's just play here for a second. What if my response was, well, my last film was Forrest Gump, 94. Oh, well, you missed the deadline by 20 freaking years. But it grossed $300 million in its day. I mean, come on. Like, just base it on the merit of the project and who's applying. These are stupid rules.
So I take your point, and I can tell how angry and frustrated you are with
Not
this
frustrated,
system.
just angry.
Okay, just angry. And so you've taken matters into your own hand. I mean, how confident are you that you'll be able to raise, like what? So somebody recently threw a number out to me about a film that said, don't even start before you have $500,000. Is that a reasonable number?
Oh,
like how much?
It's very reasonable. I can pull this thing off with a fifth of that, though, because that's my budget.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking for. Why? Well, because we've already broken down the screenplay, and we know how much the actors are going to be needing. Thank God our actors union, ACTRA, has this program called CPIP, which allows us to hire the actors at a much lower rate than they would normally get. The rest, I've gotten top-notch professionals. I have Simon Webb, my film editor. I have Gabor Vadney as my sound recordist. I have a young kid named Vladimir Filogen as my cinematographer. They've all agreed to work for a margin of what they normally get. And the rest will be a non-union crew. The rest and the other stuff I've also gotten partnership with Rev 13 Films. And with that, I get a huge break in post-production. So when I factor all that in, I said, with the amount I'm asking for on Kickstarter, I can get the film made.
So, I mean, is this the future of the Canadian film industry? People funding their own film on Kickstarter, or should I ask the question another way? What needs to change so that people like you can get their films made and not feel so angry?
Well, I think Kickstarter and crowdfunding is the future for these young artists out there that want to get some funding for their films, short films, whatever. What could change on the level of the funding is they just have to open up a bit. They got to stop. Look, go to the Kickstarter site and you'll read a quote by Ivan Reitman. This is Ivan Reitman, a Canadian who made it big in Hollywood. And this is a quote that he that helped. That was one of my inspirations to writing this play, by the way. And I cannot say it more eloquently than he. And this was a speech he gave at a producers union here in Canada back in the 90s. And I provide the link to where he gave that speech. So,
what did he say?
well, he said that the system is set up for producers to fail because they're forced to meet certain criteria. And so what ends up happening is you forget an audience. Mm-hmm. So if the funding agency says, look, we'd like to see 12 dancing monkeys in the cab scene, that young writer is going to put 12 dancing monkeys in the dance scene, in the cab scene. That's my point. This is the whole point at its core, Sue, at its core, the whole point of monies, of public money going to the arts, whether it's ballet, classical music, art in general, theater, whatever, is at the end of the day about culture, right? It's about promoting culture. Well, how in the hell are you doing that if you're even afraid to set your movies in the town you're shooting it in?
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Good luck with your campaign.
Thank you.
And let me know how it goes.
Thank you so much, Sue, for having me.
My guest in studio is Vittorio Rossi, and we'll tweet out a link to that Kickstarter campaign. He is trying to raise money for a film about his play, The Envelope. It's 10 minutes.